I don't know if it's because I'm having so much trouble with predatorial capitalists right now, but by God, this communist book scratched all of my itches. John Francis Bray's Labour's Wrongs and Labour's Remedies, or The Age of Might and the Age of Right. Well, Karl Marx called him a communist. Who would know other than Karl Marx? But he's not really a communist. Marx disagreed with him at length in the book Poverty of Philosophy. He brought him up only to shoot him down because he was so close to Proudhon's ideologies. He's not an anarcho-communist and he's not a Marxist. He described himself more than anything else as a national cooperator, but that was way later in his life. That was when he wrote this book, God and Man. But at the time, about 1839, when this one was written, he didn't really have a name for what his thing was. And I think the word socialism wasn't around back then because socialism typically was used for the transition phase between capitalism and the idyllic communism of the future. So what he called his own movement was the social system of community of possessions. I feel like I've hit a speed boost followed by a power-up. This has absolutely fortified my belief in market socialism and money being backed by labour. Here we go. The core. So you've got Pierre Joseph Proudhon's mutualism, John Gray's The Social System, that's another English socialist, the cooperative movement here, Robert Owen, and New Boy, John Francis Bray. So the interesting thing about this pile of books that I've got is that they all have the same basic idea that labour should back the currency, that currency should expand with labour. Proudhon, the famous anarchist, has his libertarianism as the core of his belief. John Gray wants monarchy still to protect property rights and stuff like that. John Francis Bray, he wants a small confederate government to do like essential government tasks, but he goes at length to go against the tyrannical kind of government, the authoritarian type. But he wants them to have like more like a janitor kind of position. And the thing that blew my box was that he made a strong argument, a good argument, for tax and rent. Whew, can you believe that? We've got kind of a bad reputation these days with tax and rent, and even profit, really. Because they all go into feeding a parasite class, a fattened parasite, a greedy, just give me money because. Just give me money because they're gun to your head. Give me money because I have this and you have nothing. That's why we've got a bad taste in our mouth for tax and rent. But the way John Francis Bray puts it, I just call him Bray from now on, it's too much. The way he puts it is, if you rent the buildings of the land, like a home and a house or whatever, the rent should go back to the nation. It should pay for the nation. And likewise, if there's a tax, it goes to the nation. And the people who work for the nation have their wages. And their wages is the same as yours, the worker. Everybody who has a place in the nation is equally valuable, which means they get an equal pay as an hour. 1 hour is good for everybody, and it all goes into the national stock. You all take out of it, and a man's wage will always be worth the maximum it could possibly be in this system. There's no fattened parasites. The only people who would be rich are the people who put the work in. That's what this pile represents. It's worker-centric isms. Fair warning, this one, again, is going to be a bit chaotic because this book is so jam-packed with gems. I've already tried to record the first thing and it was ponderous. It was basically an audiobook because I wanted to put so much out there. I just recommend you guys read this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the order of the chapters because he repeats a lot of the ideas quite a lot in this. I'm going to narrow it down to labour's wrongs and labour's remedy. It is only when men suffer great wrongs that they look about for great remedies. So long as they are satisfied with their worldly conditions, whether it be good or bad, they will not think of changes. They will not give up a certain moderate good for an uncertain great benefit. At an earlier period, we were unripe for a great social change, and if we permit existing evils to go on unredressed, an ultimate movement will not be the less certain. While instead of being conducted in peace and order, it will be fearfully convulsive, and will bury alike in one common grave the good and the bad, the patriot and the despot. On the broad principle of equal rights, labour will now take its stand. Not labour in the United Kingdom only, but in France and the United States, and the world at large. This principle will apply equally to all men of all countries, all colours and all creeds. We will survey undisguised and uncovered the great enemy which has devoured the people of all nations in all times, and we shall find out the manner, and the only manner, in which this power of this enemy may be subdued and annihilated. Let labour then come to the battle fearlessly. You would think this was written today. It turns out that the same concepts of masters and slaves has existed for a long time. So basically, whenever there's a social upheaval, whenever there's some kind of crisis, there'll always be the people who come out from the capitalist class themselves, the shills, the false prophets, to come and tell everybody everything's okay, we're in control, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna do everything, you know. We'll see it right now with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. We'll see it with all these different celebrities that are coming out who were experts in the system previously and weren't helping anybody for all the decades they were alive. Now suddenly they're fighting for the people. Basically, it happened back then and it's happening now. And just like then, people race to them and they go, oh, he's our savior, he's going to help us, you know, he's a big rich man, he's buying everything. Oh, look at him. Look at how he spends his money. Wow. Yeah, he got all that money from you. He got all that money from his workers. He got all that money from the unequal exchange by just hoarding shit and owning shit and making everybody make him rich while he lived a life of luxury. He ain't gonna save the people. Should the ruling few think fit to give reasons for their bloody acts, they fabricate some black and odious lie, calculated to mislead the multitude and work upon their passions and prejudices, and the unhappy and enslaved people are made to gloat upon the sufferings and decry the principles of him who would have made them enlightened and happy. They are taught to regard him as one of the deadliest enemies of the human race, and believing him to be such, they exult at his discomfort and glory in his downfall. The governors cry, "Crucify him," and the deluded governed loudly echo, "Crucify him." And these existing capitalists, that's their job, to keep hold of the wheel. You know, that's their, so to prevent us from getting it and driving it to a better place. They know exactly how to convince the rest of the bus to go, let him drive, man, you piece of shit. Yay, rich man, he's saying things I like, yay. God damn. They're like these cuckolds. Those rich Japanese guys, they'll go and pay a woman to stamp on the testicles. And the woman will obviously take the money. And she'll obviously stamp on the guy's testicles. Because why wouldn't she? You know? And this pathetic man's there like, and the woman's just like, you know, she's got the money. She gets to put the hurt on someone. It's fun to feel powerful. And he's just there all, really makes you wonder if there's a pleasure in submitting, a pleasure in being dominated, almost like a safety, you know? It's like you're in school or prison or the workplace or basically just society at large. If a big strong man is there, a big dangerous man, there's a sense of, oh, you know, I'll just bend the knee and, you know, I'll just put my head down and I'll worship a little bit and, you know, I'll support him and I'll be like dead loud and supporting him. And then because he hears that and he sees that, he'll leave me alone, I hope. It's like they're choosing their God. They're choosing their team, their strong man. Like, it is like a God, isn't it? It's like my God can beat your God. Like, mine's the king, mine's the prime minister, mine's the president, mine's a super rich capitalist, and we're going to fight them all against each other because I'm not going to fight myself. I'm going to have my capitalists fight it out. I'm going to cheer like a little bitch. We are a numerous people, and we want strength. We have an excellent soil, and we are destitute of provision. We are active and laborious, and we live in indignance. We pay enormous tributes, and we are told that they are not sufficient. We are at peace without, and our persons and property are not safe within. What, then, is the secret enemy that devours us? Bray asks the question, what is the secret enemy that devours us? And then he goes into a bit of history where basically he shows this. We've had this problem forever, at least in recorded history anyway. Personally, I think there would have been times of universal prosperity, that it would have been so embarrassing to life under conquest that they've just had to erase it from history. But in the history that's left, all we have is conquest, bloodshed, warfare. It doesn't matter if it's a republic or a monarchy. It doesn't matter if it's Catholic, Protestant, or pagan. We always have the same setup, really, of haves and have-nots, employers and employees, landlords and serfs. The next step which man has ever taken, after having claimed property and land, has been to claim property and man. And wherever one man possesses land and another has none, The latter must always be a slave to the former. From this prolific source of evil, exclusive possession of the soil, have risen semi-civilized despotisms and governmental power of every description. For an infringement upon one of the rights of man soon leads to a disregard of all his other rights. But we have seen from the very nature of things that no man can ever possess a right to the obedience of another, nor claim property in him, and therefore, wherever such a pretension is set up, it must be denounced and resisted, for it is contrary to the letter and the spirit of nature's great charter of equality. The creator of man only is the owner of man, and the assumption of power and dominion by one man or one class over other men and other classes, simply because one claims land and the other does not, is as unjust as the inequality of property is unjust, upon which such claim to exclusive authority is founded. It doesn't matter which ism or ocracy it is, we always have this problem: slavery, the master-slave relationship. So how is it that the most powerful people in the system, we, the industrious class, we the 99%, how is it that we are the one subjugated? How have we been defeated? We the people are divided by them, intentionally, by the slave masters. We're divided on the problem, the enemy, and the solution. And a lot of the time we'll turn to them for the solution. And no fix really will work unless we get to the absolute core root of the problem. It isn't going to be a reform of the government. It's not even going to be a revolution. He points out that basically revolutions have happened in the past. Bloody, awful, disgusting. The Revolutionary Party will overtake it and they will return right back to what the problem was, as a master class and a slave class. And just quickly, when he comes up about the difference between monarchy and republics, he's not a huge fan of monarchy, but he says eventually a republic will become a monarchy anyway. In modern America, their republic has become essentially a monarchy. They have royal families. They have the Bushes, the Clintons, the Kennedys. It always becomes the same thing. It always becomes a despotism. And it's because we haven't found the root core of the problem. So what is the secret enemy that devours us? He makes the case that to find the social system for mankind, you have to base it on first principles. This is the law that we are born with. This is the God-given law, our moral compass. It's as real as our elbows, our tongue, our hair. It's as real as that. It's a real thing. So if we base our law on that, our society based on that, we will be happy. It's so much better than having a manufactured system of tolerated robbery, which is the one we've got now, enforcement of the master-slave relationship. The system we've got now allows for homelessness when there's boarded up houses. There's an apparent housing crisis right now, and it's bullshit, because there's boarded up houses, there's boarded up buildings, the printing industry must have made a killing recently because there's a mall down the road from where I live, and it's got entire goddamn stickers stuck all over it to hide the embarrassing fact that there's buildings there that aren't being used. And there's a housing crisis. That's what this system is. You've got homeless people. You've got homeless people starving people when there's warehouses filled with food. When you've got corporations wasting food on a daily basis because they couldn't sell it for the high amount of profit they wanted. It's not based on principle, the system that we've got right now. But if you ask a capitalist, the people who benefit from all of this manufactured scarcity, they'd tell you, oh, everything's fine. It couldn't be any other way. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. But if you subjected them to the same treatment, if they had to live in this system, they would rebel. They wouldn't like it. They wouldn't choose between heating and eating, but they will make other people do it. Why? It makes the thing they control super duper expensive, super duper exploitable. And if you had a choice among everything else, if you could just go and live in a field, if you could just go and live in a car, which is illegal, if you could just go and live wherever you wanted and eat freely from the land and hunt from the rivers and the trees and all this kind of stuff, they would be fucked. Bray paints the capitalist class in two colours: those who live on profit and those who live on plunder, an aristocracy and a trading class. Really, it's like Alien versus Predator. No matter who wins, we lose. They both have the same prey. Us, the industrious, the working class, the providers, the producers. They both have the same food, and they have different hunting methods. It's basically the same idea in the end, though. Force is the same as fraud. It's just the word, fraud is just the word version of force. So force would be, obviously, you don't even need to explain it, putting a weapon up to somebody's head and making them give you things. But fraud is denying information and putting an idea in someone's head. It's still denying them options. It's just the word version. It's the weak version. It's the bitch version, you know. But either way, it's still a trespass on the honest worker, the producer, who, when you really think about it, if you look at how luxurious these guys' lives are, the profiteers and the plunderers, the parasites and the conquerors, they get to live like gods, and we get to live how we live, like subsistence living. We get to pay for our flats, our bills, our food, a little bit of entertainment, and then we'll have to go out and get it again. Consider how much we make, if you think about it. Like, if all of this wealth comes from us, which it does, because plunderers don't create anything, parasites don't create everything, they take everything. We're so fucking rich. Like, the working class, we're the wealthy ones. We're the rich ones, you know. We can support ourselves and two parasite classes who live like gods. Oh man, let's just redirect where this wealth is going. Let's keep it where it belongs. With us. In a system like this that overlooks the slavery, overlooks the conquest and the never-ending toil of one class for another, there's no such thing as law. There's no such thing as justice. There's no such thing as equal rights. They're all perverse, hollow shells. They're all things they know we want to hear. They're all things that basically come with us, that are important to us. They know they need to say it and pretend it's still a thing. Otherwise, the whole thing will be thrown up. But it can't be the case. You imagine a court case. Yes, I've looked over the case and it does seem like this worker did steal from that worker. Judgment for the plaintiff. Hey, can I also get all the stuff my employer stole off us? Like all me valuable labour that he just stole off us? But then your employer couldn't live in idle luxury. Yeah, he shouldn't be able to anyway. Enemy of the state, guilty! Over the years, the capitalists have had to justify their evil ways and ill-gotten gains. And they've thought of a myriad of charming little ways, of little stories, little comparisons and examples to, you know, to shut you up, to shut the workers up and say, just keep fucking doing what you're doing. Otherwise, you know, it's better to just swallow their horseshit rather than get punched. But one of their charming little things is to compare society to a human body. He compares the workers, the 99%, to the stomach. You know, you put stuff in, the stomach burns, and it gives energy to the rest of the body. And they would compare themselves to the head. It doesn't burn. Oh, no. It consumes. It gives, you know, it gives to the stomach, and the stomach makes everything work, and it gets to decide and philosophize and lead and sense. Of course, the capitalist parasite class would characterize themselves as that. If society was a body, the capitalists would be the tapeworm in the lower intestine, sucking out all of the sustenance and making the body sick. So, the principles of this society and his society back in the 1830s don't line up to the principles of man. It's not do unto your neighbour as you'd have them do unto you. You can't love your neighbour like yourself. It's dog eat dog. It's warfare. That's what this system is. The principle of might over right. It's a criminal class, pretending to be a just class. Their principles, let's be real honest, what they'll admire in each other more than anything is aggression, hostility, duplicity, boldness, double-dealing, backstabbing, being able to look someone dead in the eye and saying, I deserve your money, give me your money. It takes that kind of brass-neckedness to be a capitalist. Brass-neckedness? Sounds right. You've got to be that kind of scumbag to be a capitalist. There's no way of building a Scrooge McDuck pile of gold unless you're willing to rob people with a straight face. You wouldn't be able to sleep. You know, these guys, I'm actually kind of glad that these guys live like this, you know. They have to surround themselves in fortresses with blackmailed guards who despise them just as much as everybody else despises them. And their friends are all scumbags as well. They're all backstabbers and mafia. You know, they're all criminals. They're all robbers. I kind of like that they live like that, you know? You know, it's we the workers can go anywhere and feel at home anywhere just because we are civil people. We have a social contract and we can expect the social contract to count for us as well. But this parasite class, you see them in cars surrounded, you know, peering through the bulletproof glass because they know they're criminals. They know how many bloody enemies they have. It's justice. You know, and you see them when they get to the late stage capitalist parasite, and they just look like, and you see them smiling, and they're like, oh, poor evil bastard. The political economists of his day pointed out that every system has three essential things. 1, that there shall be labour. 2, that there shall be accumulations of former labour, or capital. 3, that there shall be exchanges. The ruling classes contradict the first by reaping where they don't sow, the third by never justly having anything of their own to exchange with, and the second by keeping what was never theirs. The political economists' own principles are contradicted by the capitalists themselves. No capitalist ever really pays for anything because they don't make anything themselves. They claim things and other people use those things and make produce from them. And the capitalist goes, mine, all mine. They make a claim on a building like a factory or a field or a house these days. And they'll just go, all of that money's mine. I don't make anything. All of it's mine. So when a capitalist pays for anything, they're really paying with the money other people gave them or were robbed from. So basically the thieves. All capitalists are thieves. They never actually lose anything. They never exchange anything. It's like a burglar robbing your house and then he gives you like the bike or the PlayStation or the telly. Now I've always thought it's funny that when you hear people say like it's the politics of envy, when they'll say that, when the rich will say like, oh, they're just envious of us, and it's not that at all. It's that they're stealing from us. It's that they're robbing us. It's that they only benefit from a system. They don't work. They don't make anything. They just take everything. And the only reason they can take everything is because there's an army of armed men willing to back that claim up. You know, they're to come around the house and go, actually, you will give this person all your money, bam, bam, bam. And so it's not envy, it's anger. Nobody looks at a thief and go, God, I wish I thought of that. You know, wish I thought of robbing everybody and putting a weapon up to their head. Wish I thought of that shit. The wealth which the capitalist appears to give in exchange for the workman's labour was generated neither by the labour nor the riches of the capitalist, but it was originally obtained by the labour of the workman, and it is still daily taken from him by a fraudulent system of unequal exchanges. The whole transaction, therefore, between the producer and the capitalist is a palpable deception, a mere farce. It is, in fact, in thousands of instances, no other than a barefaced though legalized robbery, by means of which the capitalists and the proprietors contrive to fasten themselves upon the productive classes and suck from them their whole substance. So he points to something else out as well, that the land that they claim, the buildings that they claim, all this stuff, it was all made by workers. No capitalist made a factory. Workers made a factory. Builders built the house. He makes the argument that everything that the nation has should make everything easier. It should make the world easier for we, the people of the nation. We don't have to build another house if this one's here. We don't have to dedicate money and resources to it. All we need to do is lightly maintain it, and we can spend our time and our money on other things. But that's actually not what happens at all. The same buildings get paid for over and over and over and over again forever. In 200 years' time, if this building's still standing, somebody else will own it. Somebody else will go, oh, that's mine now, and you need to pay the market rate for it. You need to pay more than the mortgage for it. Why? Because that's what the system is. You know, we're not paying the workers anymore. We're not maintaining it anymore. That's just what capitalists are. They claim things and they say, you're using that, you need to pay me money. The only way to arrive at truth is to go at once to first principles. Instead, then, of confining our inquiries to the benefits and the evils resulting from particular forms of government, and regarding monarchies and aristocracies alone as the great enemy, and the prime originators of wrong, let us take a wider range and go at once to the source from whence all governments themselves have risen, and we shall soon discover that all of them are but as boughs of the great tree of human evil, that they are only as the claws with which the great enemy seizes upon labour's substance, and that Although we may distinguish them by names of monarchies and republics, yet the attributes of each are the same, the ends of each are the same, the wrongs inflicted upon the working classes by each are the same. By thus going to the origin of the thing, we shall find that every form of government and every social and governmental wrong owes its rise to the existing social system, to the institution of property as at present exists, and that therefore, if we would end our wrongs and our miseries at once and forever, the present arrangement of society must be totally subverted and supplanted by those more in accordance with the principles of justice and the rationality of man. Which brings us to the answer to the big question. What is the secret enemy that devours us? Well, it's unequal exchange. It is an inevitable condition of inequality of exchanges, of buying at one price and selling at another, that capitalists shall continue to be capitalists, and working men be working men, the one a class of tyrants, and the other a class of slaves to eternity. By equality of exchanges, however, no able-bodied individual can exist, as thousands now do, unless he fulfil that condition of the economist, that there shall be labour. Nor can one class appropriate the produce of the labour of another class, as the capitalists now appropriate and enjoy the wealth which the powers of the working man daily call into existence. It is the inequality of exchanges which enables one class to live in luxury and idleness, and dooms another to incessant toil. That caught me off guard, because when you live in this world, you get used to unequal exchange. You get used to profit. It's just what we're brought up in. You're used to making something for cheap and buying it for expensive. If you go to work, let's say if you make a beer at work or you make a car at work, you were paid less than what you would pay to buy it. We're just used to that. And this kind of unequal exchange leads to inequality of possessions, which leads to the master-slave relationship of a have class and a have-not class. So there we go. We've discovered what the secret enemy is that devours us. Unequal exchange. Now let's see what we can do about it. Which brings us to the good news version of the video, the Labour's Remedy. This was written in 1839, and since then, a lot's happened. Since then, the cooperative movements happened. Super duper powerful, super duper prosperous, super successful. The Chartist movements happened. Civil rights movements have happened. There's just a whole load of things that have happened in the last 200 years that have gotten rid of these capitalist satanic mills with kids getting their little hands in the chains and all that kind of stuff. We've pushed the greedy capitalists back quite a bit over the last 200 years. But they're kind of coming back. You can feel it. You can feel it with the talk of this fourth industrial revolution. You can see it with these technocratic slave system that they're trying to put around us, with like a binary chain attaching 0001. They're coming for us. They're coming for us again. You know, it's soon we'll have the same rights as the old workers have, where basically you obey or die. And all of the progress we've made over the last 200 years will be gone. And it'll be gone because we were stupid. It'll be gone because we were ignorant, distracted by our screens, and our soaps, and our drugs, and our junk. Just generally distracted and not connected with each other. We'll get to the details of the system soon, but something funny happened when I was reading this. I realised we have a version of this already, actually. The wage workers have this system already. And what I mean by that is, we work per hour. We have a minimum wage. And with our wage, we can take part in society. We have the division of labour. So right now I'm a warehouse worker, so I can put boxes on shelves and I can also eat. I can put boxes on shelves and get a massage. I can go to the gym. I can have a guy fix me roof. Whatever. I can enjoy society's fruits just for putting boxes on shelves. That's a thing that he wants to keep. But the difference is, he's talking about having the full value of labour. We don't have the full value of labour. We have the least value of labour. We get subsistence living. And the world that we live in is the working class world. We know exactly how much our wage will buy when it comes to a home, when it comes to a vehicle, when it comes to entertainment or food. That's what our wage has been chopped up into. And we get enough to spend on what's allowed for us. So we already have this system in a way, because what we really should have is everything, because we made everything. We live in this little world where our wage gives us everything we want. And the real value of our wages is enjoyed by the proprietors, by the capitalists, by the guys who own the workplaces, who own the factories, who own the land, who just take. And they don't give anything. They don't work. They just take. They're the ones who live a wealthy life. So I just thought it was quite funny that either this is how you keep slaves enslaved, by giving them like a little mini world to enjoy, or they saw this book and went, oh, is that what they want? All right, we'll give them a version of it. We'll give them the minimum wage version of it. We'll still take everything from them, but we'll give them what they think is their own little world. And I'd imagine imagine it works, because most guys I know are perfectly content in their work-a-day life until they get to about 60, and then they start realizing something's wrong here. I've worked my entire life. Why do I still need to go to work tomorrow? Why do I still need a paycheck? Why does it keep getting taken off us? There's no golden egg. And they're right. That's a real feeling. That's a legitimate thing. That's a real observation. You should be able to relax if you've worked all your life. If you work at all, you should have everything you goddamn want, because you've made it. You've provided for society. The only people who don't deserve to have everything are the people who currently have everything. The idle parasites who lie, cheat and steal. They're the ones who get to live lives of luxury. They're the ones who get to enjoy their golden egg, while we, the working class, toil until the day we die. Terrible. And we're right to be indignant about this. So now that little intro's been had, let's get to this system of community of possessions in the joint stock movement. A bit of a mouthful. So around about chapter 8 of this book, we finally get his system. So I've condensed it into a bit of a list, because he talks a lot about each step in detail. Like I say, he makes a fantastic point. He's super duper convincing. I would highly recommend anybody get this book. So I'm going to try and trawl my way through this and give you my little digest of it. So without imagining how we get there from here, just imagine a blank void in a system is like this. Okay, so the nation would be divided into a number of joint stock companies that specialize in a certain industry. So back then, joint stock company meant something else. It's similar to the modern day corporation. So back then, a joint stock company was a group of people would come together and they would do business and they would split the profits amongst each other. So they would work together and they would share the wealth among each other. That sounds like a great idea. And these days, that's not how it is. It's more like the corporations of today, where instead of the workers sharing the wealth, it's the financial shareholders who share the wealth. So the workers get minimum wage still. It's imagine how more motivated we would be if you worked at, say, like a coffee shop or a factory, and instead of the security guard guys coming and taking all the money away and you get your wages, instead at the end of the month they go, there's your share, there's your share, there's your share, and here's the business expenses. I think we'd be very motivated and we'd be way better off. So these joint stock companies would be made up from about 100 to 5,000 people, depending on the region, depending on the specialization. We keep division of labor, but instead of having like a single task monkey, like a lever puller for your entire life, and going absolutely insane, you would be industry specialist. You would know everything about it. He argues for something called universal labor. So basically, everybody's labor, so long as it's worthwhile to the nation, is as valuable as anybody else's labor. It doesn't matter if you're a manager, it doesn't matter if you're a CEO, it doesn't matter if you're the cleaner or a line worker, whatever. If you're needed, if your labor is needed in the system, you get your hours paycheck. You get your 1 hour per every hour you work, and the manager gets an hour for every hour he works, and the supervisors too, and the cleaners. The produce of your labor would be valued at the cost of labor, the cost of production, be valued at the cost of production. So a product would be valued at how many hours went into it, plus the business expenses. So if there was rent, or if there was wear and tear on the business, or if there was like a heavy kind of, you needed a lot of resources to have this business work, that's just an unavoidable and completely fair addition to the cost of the labor, and it's something we cannot avoid. But if you paid off your business expenses, let's say if you just worked yourself, or you bought your business expenses about a year ago and they're still fine, then that would exchange for perfect labour exchange, and it would just be your time exchanging for somebody else's time. That would be a perfect exchange of labour, not a sacrifice of labour like we have now. Organising on a larger scale, you would have these joint stock companies would be directed by elected representatives, and they would be run by essentially local and general boards of trade. So they would figure out the consumption and the production of a fair, basically of what was needed. So there was no waste, there was no want. And once the needs of the nation have been met, the excess can be traded to other nations. So we can still have the benefit of foreign trade. We can just give them the produce that we have, and we can get the produce they have. And because we're trading at hours labour, who wouldn't trade with us? We're just trading products for products. It'd be the easiest trade in the world. One of the principles Bray brings up is that it's an absolute natural fact that we have to labour to eat. To work for your daily bread is an unavoidable fact of life. Every creature does it. We have to do it. It's just unavoidable. So in this movement, everybody would be expected to work. And because everybody's working, the demand for labour would plummet. It would be 5 hours a day and everything would be sorted out. We wouldn't need to work so hard if everybody had a place, if everybody had a job, everybody was providing. But who would build the roads, Mises? A Confederate government. Ooh. Oh no, but he makes a damn good argument. I've got to say, Bray, he is so principled and he is so moral and he's either the world's greatest con man or he really means what he's saying. And he made a phenomenal argument for a small Confederate government and rent and taxes. Can you believe that? Tolerable rent and taxes would pay for the nation. So we could have roads and schools and hospitals because they would be paid for by the nation itself. They would be paid for by the buildings that we're in and the workplaces. We would pay a small amount of rent, which I think most people would be okay with so long as it gave things that we needed, like things the nation actually needed, like bridges, nurseries, hospitals, retirement homes, funerals, morgues, and cremation things and all that kind of stuff. I think most people would be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with my taxes going on things that we need as a nation, rather than when you see drippingly luxurious weddings and, fucking ridiculous tax write-offs for politicians and the mates. I'm not okay with taxes like that. And the Confederate government thing, getting back to that, they don't rule over us. We rule over our representatives and they carry out our will, but the Confederate government would be force. Like, they would exist when they were needed to protect property rights, to protect personal and equal human rights. They're not ridiculous rights that John F. Bray's putting forward. Basic human rights are just don't trespass on my freedom. They're not these ridiculous woke rules. There's no protected class. What this guy's putting out, everybody has the same equal rights. Don't trespass. Something I forgot to mention as well, the government and the higher ups, the directors, there wouldn't be higher ups. There would be wage workers like you and me. Guys who work in the government, this Confederate government that he's talking about, they would have their hours worth of labour just like the cleaner in the warehouse. Everybody would be able to take from the store what they put in. The world is a gift from God, according to John Francis Bray. Nobody owns it. Nobody had it signed over to them. We're all born in it the same way. We're all visitors here. It doesn't belong to any of us, and God didn't give it to any of us. If he did, it belongs to all of us. So that's reflected in his system, where basically we inherit the land. We, the nation, have the land. No one person owns it. No one class owns it. We work and we control where we work. These joint stock companies, we control them as the workers. The land, it's ours. And the biggie, the law. So, this is where John Francis Bray just hits a home run, because he makes a damn good argument that his entire system is based on the golden rule. To do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. To love your neighbour like you'd love yourself. Is that the phrase? But basically, moral law. That's the law of the land. The law written onto the hearts of every man. There's no authority greater than God. And he gave us a rule book already. His system's based on that. And this system is the only system, really, where you can manifest that. Where you can trade with your fellow man. Labour for labour. Without robbing him. Without competing with him. Without screwing him over for personal gain. But just in case you want to call him a communist, here's something that I found very interesting. When I was reading the Marx book, and I was trying to find out what Marx's version of communism was, and basically it's hard to find. You'll find out what his version of capitalism is, but not communism. But anyway, through the little bits that you'd read, his little baby communism comes up in Poverty of Philosophy. Basically, he argues for an average wage. He argues for everybody working and for everybody to get an average wage. So the lowly, lazy, loafer kind of guy gets the exact same wage as the super hard-working guy. Now, that's where a lot of people have a problem with Marx, and I have a problem with Marx because I wouldn't want to work like that. If I work, I want a better reward than the person who does nothing. So here's what John Francis Bray brings up is, he pays people by the hour. So if you work, you get more. So there's earlier on I talked about the inequality of possessions being a great evil. So he qualifies this. Inequality of possessions that comes from your honest labour is fine. It's not just fine, that's a right that you have. If you work hard and you acquire things, that's your right to keep that. And it doesn't trespass at all on somebody who works 1 hour and has an hour's worth of things. If he wants more, he can work longer. So what does that mean for the worker? Well, this is the best deal a worker would ever get. This is the most money a wage worker could possibly imagine. Short of stealing, this is the best deal you can get for your wage working money. It has been clearly shown that man has nothing to exchange except his labour, or the produce of his labour, and that therefore when men exchange products with each other, they merely give, as it were, labour for labour. Thus, were the raw materials of the two articles of the same value, and an equal portion of labour has been bestowed upon them, strict justice requires that the two exchange equally against each other. Where things are thus of equal value, and they are exchanged unequally, the gain of one exchanger must ever be the loss of another, and ultimately there will be generated rich and poor, and laws and institutions will be framed to constitute the first a wiser and better and a more privileged order than the last. But where equal exchanges are maintained, the gain of one man cannot be the loss of another, for every exchange is then simply a transfer and not a sacrifice of labour and wealth. In this system, the worker would be the richest. Unlike today, where the richest men in the world aren't the hardest workers or the brightest minds, they're the capitalists, the idle parasites, who feed on the blood of 1,000 workers and leave their drained carcasses on the altar of property. Devise what he may, it is impossible for the ingenuity of man to create an instrument which will enable him to exercise such power over his fellow man as he now obtains by the means of the system of banking, or the creation and issue of money. This constitutes the great armoury from whence the capitalists derive all their weapons to fight with and conquer the working class. And so long as they have this mighty engine of good or evil at their disposal, so long as the power of making and issuing money is usurped by particular classes, independent of other classes, the moneyed class can bid defiance to political associations, trade unions, and all similar institutions, having for their object the amelioration of the condition of the working class, and the effecting of their deliverance from the chains of capital. Money. Money, money, money. Oh, it makes your goddamn skin crawl. Don't you just hate those people who'll do anything for money? Who'll just absolutely throw the moral compass out the window, all the principles, all the virtues, and just do anything for money. I'm going to have a decision. I'm going to make someone homeless. I'm going to do something to somebody with a certain medication for money. Just gives money. Money yes or money no. Money less or money more. I'll just do something for the money. Surprisingly enough, John Francis Bray talks about money. So, it's the circulatory system of any kind of nation. And right now, it's controlled by the Bank of England. Or in his day, sorry, in 1839 it was controlled by the Bank of England. And he noticed that because of that, it has an absolute chokehold on anything that happens in the nation. The review which has been taken of some of the attempts made to subvert the present system has shown us that these efforts have failed chiefly, if not entirely, from the inadequate amount of money devoted to the purpose. As money, then, is the one thing needful, the first thing necessary to the success of every enterprise, which has for its object either the amendment of the present system or the institution of a new one. What is money? What are banknotes and gold and silver coins? For these substances, men will give up lands, houses, machinery, food, and all else that they have. Is money then, as it were, the essence of all these good things? Have certain portions of land, together with houses and food, been transformed by the occult operations of some cunning alchemists into slips of paper and pieces of metal? No, a change of this kind has not taken place. Gold and silver are no more simple metals than banknotes are but paper. It decides, the Bank of England, who gets money, who doesn't, who has to pay it back, who gets high interest, who gets no interest at all, and who gets just, debts forgiven, loans forgiven, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, money is the chain around everybody's necks. That's the big evil. That's the big secret. It's the money system. All it does, really, is it has us on a hamster wheel for our entire life. That's all it does. That's all money does. It's we make everything, and they say how many tokens they'll give you for it, and we just never stop. We never stop chasing money, never stop having money taken away from us. So if they make electricity super duper expensive, if they make rent expensive, if they make tax unaffordable, if they make bread, milk, beer, bus rides, if they make absolutely everything unaffordable, you worked your entire month and have nothing to show for it. It just vanishes. Full-time workers are going to food banks. Full-time workers can't afford rent. That's fucked up. That's an attack. That's a failed system at best. Such then, being the true nature of money, it is apparent that any material agreed upon by the community at large, whether gold, silver, iron, pottery, or paper, would answer every purpose for which money is required. It is not necessary that there should be gold, and that the gold should be a foundation for the paper. All that is requisite for the issuing of paper money, or any other medium of exchange, is that there should be an actual produce of some kind for it to rest upon. Thus then, in regard to those social evils dependent on the existing scarcity of money, it cannot be denied or disproved that there is a universal desire for the comforts and conveniences of life, that all these things must be produced by labour, that there is a sufficiency of raw materials to absorb the labour of all, that there is likewise a sufficiency of food for the support of all while they are engaged in the production of other food, and of all the other things desired, that labour can be set to work only by the assistance of capital, that capital may be effectually represented and brought into operation by a paper medium, and therefore there is abundant demonstration that an indefinite increase of the circulating medium under particular circumstances would instantly set labour in motion, and thus incalculably increase the production of wealth. One of the key things he brings up about money is there's not enough of it. And this is a common argument. And there's another book I've read about it. It's just everybody talks about this lack of money we have in the nation. Intentional scarcity to make it more valuable, to make it buy more things. But he points out that there's so little money in the nation that you couldn't buy everything in the nation. Basically everything that exists, all of the buildings, all of the capital, all of the workers, all of the produce, everything. There isn't enough money to buy it all. So there's a bit of a problem there, isn't there? It means people can't trade. It means people can't work, and that's the key thing. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's no money to pay the workers. And they would actually, the capitalists class will tell you that there's a glut of labour. To say there's a glut of labour is a perversion, because it suggests everybody's needs have been met. Now, when you're in a depression, look around. Is everybody's needs met? No, far from it. But of course, you're probably going to have all these people chiming in with, if you print more money, that's just going to increase inflation. You're going to get less for your money. Not in Bray's system. Because in Bray's system, when you give somebody money, you get their produce. So your money, the money that the worker has, would be putting into the same stock he put his product in. So the money is always backed by labour, because his product is put into the system. Here it is seen at a glance how it happens that such enormous fortunes, such millions and half millions sterling, are acquired by men who originally possessed not one penny, and who have never produced real wealth of the value of one farthing. Such is the system of banking. Such is the manner in which this system benefits those who make the medium and those who borrow it. And this mode of creating and using money is alone sufficient, in defiance alike of trades, combinations, political changes, to keep the working class the slaves of the capitalists until doomsday. So, how are we going to get there? John Francis Bray suggests we start by purchasing the capital off them. No violent revolution, no blood, no overthrows, no overtaking, anything like that. We rely on persuasion and purchase. We, the industrious class, can make our own money. We make money out of nothing. We make produce out of nothing. The only thing that would stop that would be the capitalists seeing the writing on the wall and going, no, I'm not selling. I guess that would stop it in its tracks. But I guess then we could just start our own thing anyway. Change is needed, and one of the most important things is that the working class wake up. We need to wake the fuck up. We need to stop this zombie life that we've got. And we need to start becoming aware of how valuable we are. We need to start becoming aware of how powerful we are. We are all part divine. We are all sons of God. And we weren't put here by the Creator, whatever you want to call it. He calls it the omnipresent infinite. And we're not here to just dig a hole and make some guy rich. We're not here to just go on a battlefield and die because some general told us. We need to figure out what we are. And the clue, there's an earlier chapter when he talks about no animal is upset in its natural habitat. And any animal that is taken out of its habitat and put in a false one, like a cage, will display all the restlessness that currently is characteristic of man. And that hit me. It was like, wow, that thing we all know, that unspoken feeling we have, that it's not right. What are we actually appealing to? We know we're not being human. We know we're not being treated as humans. We know inhumanity as soon as it happens to us. It's like it's imprinted on us. This system is sick. Dave Chappelle says it. Lower class workers say it. Even ex-governors of Bank of England say it. Generals say it. Everybody says it. So what the hell are we doing? Why don't we just make a new system that matches humanity? That matches our moral law? What are we waiting for? The productive classes have only to move on with confidence, for truth is with them, justice is with them, all the elements of success are with them. Individuals have not the power to decide in what manner particular changes shall be accomplished. Placing their trust in principles, they calmly await the issue of events. There are manifestations on all sides which tell men, in accents not to be misunderstood, that the elements of mighty changes are at work, and, whatever may be the immediate prospect, they are to be seen harbingers of brighter and better times. The light of mind is beaming through the gloomy boundaries of the age of might, and ushering in the age of right.